ever experienced something that you couldn't explain? Like, it was just a normal day, and then bam, the bizarre unknown happens? Yeah, well, listen to this. A few years back, I was Ubering part-time for some extra cash. And I was a night owl, so my hours were usually from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And let me tell you, you definitely run into some very strange people at these times. Well, one night, while I was Ubering, I got a request around 3 a.m. from a man named Damien. When I picked him up, I was shocked. He had on an all-white, flowing robe with his hood up. Like, it looked like bed sheets were draped around him. I almost laughed when he got into my car. I asked him if he was going to a party or did he lose a bet. Damien said no to both. It was definitely odd. I could only see his bottom chin and mouth because the hood drooped so low. We sat quietly for a bit. When he asked if I carried a gun, I got a little tense. I do carry, but I didn't answer and just stared at him in my rearview mirror. We were driving through some backwoods when he suddenly asked to stop. I usually don't stop for anything, but I thought maybe he was sick or something. I put my flashers on and pulled over to the side of the road. Damien got out of the car and then asked me something that shook me to my core. He asked me, "Do I know what pure evil looks like?" Before I could even process this question, about 10 other people dressed in white robes emerged from the woods. They were all chanting this low hum. It was truly the most bizarre situation that I've ever experienced. At this point, I didn't care about my Uber rating or money and literally hit the gas and sped off down the road. When I looked into my rearview window, I could see all of them just standing in the middle of the road, watching me drive away. I reported him to Uber and stopped Ubering at these late hours. I cannot for the life of me explain what happened and why they were all wearing robes at 3 in the morning in the middle of the woods. If I had to guess, it was some kind of ritual or cult gathering. I've heard it said once that nothing good ever happens after midnight. They sure got that right. To all my Uber driver friends, be safe out there. If you're an Uber driver or have ever Ubered, then you know the risks involved with the job. Here's my story. I had been let go from my job in 2020 due to the pandemic, and since the bill still had to be paid, I decided to try Uber to keep myself afloat. For context, I was a 27-year-old male living in Delaware when this story takes place. Anyway, it was my first week as an Uber driver, and I was really enjoying the independence. I got a request to pick up this guy at the beach. It was about 10 p.m., and I decided that this man would be my last ride for the night. I pulled up to the location marked on my GPS and looked around for him. I was parked in a small parking lot that faced the ocean. At first I didn't think he was going to show because the beach and the parking lot were both completely empty. But then I saw a middle-aged man dragging a cooler and a beach chair from the beach to my car. When he got close enough, I asked him for his name and confirmed that he was the man that I was picking up. He seemed to be tired, like he'd been out in the sun all day. I got out of the car and offered to help put his stuff in the back of my trunk. As I was putting away his beach chair, I heard the sound of a gun cocking right next to my ear. Then I felt the cold barrel of a gun on the back of my head. The man said to shut up and not to turn around. His voice was angry and desperate. He told me to hand him my car keys. I did. He told me to hand over my wallet, cell phone, and any other valuables that I had. I did. He told me to get up and walk 10 yards out into the beach. At this point, I was sure that I was going to die. I walked 10 yards out into the sand. He told me to kneel down. He said not to call the police, because if I do, he has my wallet and knows where I live. He'll come for me and kill me when I least expect it. And this was the part where I actually pissed my pants. I then heard the man walking back to my car and then shut the door. I heard the car peel off and speed down the road. I stayed kneeled on that empty beach for a half an hour, just staring out into the ocean, processing what just happened and thanking God that I was still alive. I eventually got up and started walking into town. I made it to a local bar and explained what happened to the bartender. They let me use a cell phone to call the police and were even nice enough to order me an Uber to get home. Despite what that man said about calling the police, I still made a report and got them involved. It's been 2 years, and the man was never caught, and my car was never recovered. And I stopped Ubering after that. For me, the risks were too high. You're letting a complete stranger get into your car, not knowing what they're capable of. Never again. But I now own a gun, in case I ever run into that man again, or any like him. What would you do if you saw someone hurt in the middle of the road? Would you help them? Let me explain how that might be a bad idea. A few years ago, I was an Uber driver on the weekends. It was a nice escape from my regular 9-to-5 job, and you got to meet some cool people. For context, I was a 32-year-old female at the time living in West Virginia. It was late one Saturday night in June. I had just dropped off my last rider for the night and was heading home. I took a back road and was listening to one of my podcasts when I saw something laying in the middle of the road. At first I thought it was a deer or some other animal, but when I got closer, I realized it was a man. He was bloodied up and looked like he was in terrible pain, like someone had attacked him and left him there for dead. I stopped my car and put my flashers on. I was about to unbuckle my seatbelt when there was a loud slam on both sides of my car. 2 men in white rabbit masks were yanking at my door handles, yelling for me to open up, pointing guns directly at me. My doors were locked, so they couldn't open it. They both walked in front of my car, guns raised, and said to turn off the car and get out. I don't know if what I did next was stupid or not, but I nodded my head, pretending I was about to open my door, but instead slammed on the gas pedal. I hit both of the men with rabbit masks, and they flew in either direction. The man who was bloodied on the ground jumped up and moved out of the way, as if he was perfectly fine. I looked in my rearview and saw all 3 of them gathered together and talking, and that's when I knew the whole fake injury was a setup. When I got home, I made a police report. They informed me that there has been recent gang activity in which someone pretends to be hurt in the road. The victim gets out of their car to help, and then is ambushed on either side and robbed, and sometimes even killed. It's sad that people out there will exploit the kindness of others, but that's part of the reality we live in. I now have my concealed carry permit and feel much safer doing late night Ubers. But yeah, for all my Uber friends and other motorists out there, if you see someone hurt in the middle of the road, analyze the situation, but be very cautious.